again. But it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on that.
Good evening and welcome to NUFC Matters with me, Steve Wraith. It is Tuesday night and it feels like Easter. It feels like Christ has risen. Liam Kennedy is back from behind the boulder, shaking COVID off, giving it some stick, and he's back once again like the Renegade Master. Liam, how are you?
It does. Cheers for that little wind up there, Steve. But no, it was good. It's been. I would love to say it's been good being away, but it hasn't been much of a holiday. I'll be honest. COVID's no joke. That's all I would say to people out there. Just be careful with yourselves out there. If you get it, when you get it, seems like everybody's going to get it the way things are going at the moment, particularly around these parts, North Tyneside, South Tyneside, and other places. So, but no, it does feel like a long time. I was just, when you play the little intro there, the music, I was thinking, God, it feels like absolute ages since I've been sitting on the other side of this camera. So I'm sure, because I think I've been away, it's probably been 3 weeks since we sat down together. There's a fair bit to talk about. I'm sure people will have lots of questions, and I've got to say, I'm getting there towards 100%. So I'm happy to sit and take your questions tonight.
Good stuff. Well, everybody's happy to see you back. I just had to chip in. Kenny Ranson's just said we're slept in again. No, we're just catching up off screen before we came on screen. That's what it was. And good to see the Mags is there. Mags has also commented on the chat to say, anyone else find yourself singing along to the intro? Well, it is the Long Sands. Get yourself onto the Long Sands playlist. I've stuck all the videos that we did when I managed the band in there, and let's just hope that after COVID they do get themselves back into the recording studio and do their third album, because the first two were brilliant. But anyway, we have an hour as usual, and on a Tuesday night I tend not to say a great deal. Liam tends to field most of the questions. Thanks to Mick Lowes for standing in last week as well. Okay, takeover question first from Stu Taylor. He says, if the Cat case is won by the club, whose jobs become untenable at the Premier League, do you think?
I just want to say, you mentioned Mick Lowes there. I'm surprised he got us back. Top class stand-in, to be honest. I'm surprised I'm back in this week. Good question, Stuart. Whose jobs become untenable? I think probably the same type of names that you would think are probably untenable, even without a Cat case win or even without an arbitration win. I don't think there's probably 3 or 4 people at the Premier League who haven't shone themselves in a fantastic light throughout this process, through the ESL process, through the Project Big Picture process. And I think we know, look, I'm not privy to the ins and outs of how the mechanics of the top end of the Premier League works in terms of accountability and who makes this decision, who makes that decision, apart from the top 6 bit, obviously. But I would say Richard Masters and Gary Hoffman are 2 people that have really got to come under the spotlight, and rightly so. I think they've overseen an absolute debacle in the last 15 months with regards to Newcastle United takeover. Guided by their legal teams, and I think they've overseen. It's been on their watch where we've had, first of all, the power grab that was Project Big Picture, and secondly, the even bigger power grab with the ESL. And what needs to be found out is how complicit were the key figures at the Premier League. How much did they know? How much were they involved? And I think it needs an outside body, an outside influence to have a look into that. And decide that. I don't think the Premier League is fit to run itself, but I don't think I'm saying anything that'll surprise anybody out there by stating that. There needs to be an outside body, and I'm not going to sit here and say that the fan-led governance review Tracy Crouch thing is going to give exactly that. I think it needs to be stronger. I think somebody needs to step in. I think somebody at the very top of power in this country needs to step in and say, look, you are unfit to run yourself. We're going to appoint people to come in and look after you. But will that happen? I've always been sceptical. And I think that's a lot of what the conversations that are going on at the moment within the fan base, because of the protest, which I fully support on Friday, and other things that are going on at the moment, that the transparency is key. If you've got nothing to hide, let's see it all out in public. There's no reason for an arbitration in particular to be in private, particularly when a lot of the people involved in the process who may have sensitive information that they might want to hide, you would think so anyway, are saying, just play it out in public. We want this all to go out. And I think that kind of attitude, although some people take it as a desperation thing, I've taken it the other way. I take that as if you've got nothing to hide, then you think, if you think you're going to lose, why would you want that to play out in public? And if you've got something to hide, you wouldn't want that playing out in public either. So I think there's an honesty and a transparency about the people who want to buy Newcastle United Football Club, and I have to assume a dishonesty and a lack of transparency from people at the Premier League. There is a massive public interest in everything that's going on with Newcastle United, because we're not just talking about who can own Newcastle United here. We're talking about who can own a football club, and who really decides who can own a football club. Is it outside influences? Is it television companies from the Middle East? Is it some of the member clubs, some of the 20 member clubs who are making these decisions, or at least influencing these decisions? And I think that's something that ticks the box that there is a massive public interest here. Look, there's a public interest even if you just look at Newcastle United fans. The amount of people who are talking about this on social media, the amount of people who are talking about this in the pub, talking about it in their WhatsApp groups with their mates, whatever it may be. There is so many people talking about this subject, particularly arbitration, that there is a public interest there. There are enough people that need to know, and they're interested to know what's happened here. And when one side wants it public and the other don't, then you've got to shine a bad light on that. Legally, it won't. There won't be a legal bad light shone on people who want to remain in private. But I think in the court of public opinion, I think a lot of people look at it and say, well, what are you trying to hide? Why do you want it to be private? And for me, it's huge. It's huge. And I think that's one thing that some people don't get when they talk about it. They think this is just a Newcastle United thing, but this isn't. This doesn't have to have been Newcastle United. This could have been another football club. Look, we wouldn't have been half as bothered if it was. I get that, but it doesn't make it right. And I think there needs to be, if there's been wrongs here, which I think there has, and I think a lot of people also think there have been wrongs in this process, then I think the best way for those to be righted and not made again would be for it all to be laid out in public, and there'd be proper scrutiny, as Amanda Staveley said in one of our excellent interviews last week. When I was bedridden, I did manage to see the ITV one, and I seen the Sky Sports one, and other bits and bobs that were done throughout the week. Of course, Murdad took a bit of his time to come on for you guys on Friday night, which was another fantastic message, and kind of puts to bed those final last doubters out there who sort of say, like, they're not really wanting to buy the football club anymore. I don't think this. No, Ashley's only doing it for this reason. He's only doing it for the money. It's not. He wants a deal because the people who want to buy the football club still want to deal with him. And they want to buy this football club. So let's get it out in public. Let's get it transparent, because there's nothing to hide. If there's nothing wrong, then why are you trying to keep it private? Do I think it will be private? Look, I think it's an uphill task. I think it's a struggle, but there's a lot of people out there working really hard to try and make sure that we do see what goes on, and any arbitration decision, which we've got to remember is within the legal framework of the Premier League. The myth, I'm going to talk about this. I've done a lot of thinking over these last 2.5 weeks, Steve. You can tell I'm probably talking too much here, and we're going to ruin all the questions. But the one thing that the narrative that kind of sticks with me a little bit, find a little bit of an annoyance, is the idea, and it's been peddled by a lot of people, a lot of critics, is the idea the Premier League offered arbitration. They offered arbitration, and it paints the Premier League in this really positive light, as if they've offered the hand to the buyers and said, look, we'll do this. We're honest and we're upfront. We offer this. Premier League didn't offer arbitration. They didn't offer arbitration. It's part of the legal framework. Anybody can go to arbitration to get something decided. It wasn't a goodwill offer by the Premier League, as if they plucked it out the backside and said, oh, we're so wonderful, we'll offer you this and help you out. This narrative is ridiculous. They didn't offer arbitration. Arbitration is part of their legal framework, and it was chosen not to be taken for very, very obvious reasons. There was enough embarrassment last summer with the likes of PIF, who believed they would be able to walk in the front door. And I've said that many times on this show, that the back door job for the PIF was not one they wanted. They want to walk through with their flags waving high. Let's not mess around here. That's why they're buying Newcastle United, and that's why they're buying a football club in the Premier League. So we need it transparent. We need to know what went wrong. There needs to be an independent body look at this, and that's where I think, for me, the idea of you can't hide from outside legal cases. The arbitration to me is at the moment private and part of the legal framework of the Premier League, although done by independently appointed people on the board, of course, on the panel, sorry. But it is part of the Premier League legal framework. I think we need something outside of that. And I think everything needs to be laid out and saying, look, can you pass this or not? Because we're all sick. Newcastle United fans need a decision. That's another public interest. Newcastle United's buyers need a decision, and Newcastle United's seller needs a decision. We need to know whether a man effectively who doesn't like spending money and will struggle to spend money at the best of times needs to know, what's going to happen with this football club. Am I going to have to try and sort of push things around and get players in and things like that? There's too much stasis at Newcastle United, and really we need a very quick, very transparent decision. Look, it ain't going to pass, and this is why. It will pass if you do this. It will pass because we got it wrong. There needs to be some kind of clarity and some kind of decision. And I think the only way we'll get that is if everything is out in the public domain.
Well, thanks very much for joining us on NUFC Matters. See you next week.
It's been a while. It's been a while. I've been isolating. I haven't been talking to anybody.
I love it. Brilliant stuff. Okay, a lot of questions coming in, quite a lot on a similar vein, so it's not going to be too bad. Liam Bede says, question for Stephen. Liam, we'll leave this to you. Are there any truths that Hayden is in talks with Southampton over a £12 million deal or possible swap deal involving Lamina and Hayden?
Bede, good question, because obviously that was something that popped up in the Daily Mail this morning. I don't know if anybody out there saw the story that I wrote, which went out about 11 o'clock today. And that was just absolutely rubbish in the story. Newcastle United are not in talks with Southampton to swap Isaac Hayden, to sell Isaac Hayden. Nor were they in talks last week with Watford to swap or sell Isaac Hayden. I can't tell you with any degree of certainty whether Isaac Hayden is a definitive part of Steve Bruce's plans moving forward, but he certainly isn't trying to shift them out the door at the moment. And there are no talks with Southampton, whether that's a swap deal or a straight sale. I think Isaac Hayden's a player like many others in the squad. If somebody came down and slapped a decent amount of money down for an Isaac Hayden, Newcastle would be daft not to think about it, because I like him, and he's not one of the first players I would get rid of, because I think he's got a fantastic attitude, really good professional, decent midfielder as well. But he's not really going to get you up the table. And I think if a decent amount of money, and I'm talking, it would have to be a considerable amount when he comes down for an Isaac Hayden, you'd probably look into it and say, can we do more with that money than keeping an Isaac Hayden? But that's not really been the conversations that I've heard. And I asked this morning, had it confirmed that Isaac Hayden, Southampton, absolute load of rubbish.
Okay, a lot of people asking this one, including Liam Weaver on Facebook. James Brown says, is there any truth that Newcastle have opened talks with Arsenal in regards to signing Joe Willock on another season-long loan deal? And also, if it's true, are there any talks of an option to buy clause?
I don't know about the last bit, James, but anybody who watches this show regularly, I know I've been away for a while, will always know that I've kind of said that I do believe there is a potential that Joe Willock will end up back here, and it would likely be some kind of season-long loan deal, with Arsenal kicking their decision on Willock to the long grass, Newcastle United hoping for better days in terms of finance to then finance a deal. I think it's a no-brainer, and I still think there's an opportunity. Do I know if talks have started? Talks have loosely been going on largely throughout the summer, as these things do with these deals. But it's a fantastic story. I've seen that, and it's one that Newcastle fans can take a lot of positivity from. But it's one of those that I've always thought would go late anyway. I see a lot of talk, a lot of frustration on social media the last few days, and it's probably just been after England. People's mind refocuses on black and white, and look and say, we've not signed anybody, we've got nobody in. I think people probably have short memories. We're not a great club at getting business done. I know it was always a bugbear of Benitez when he was the manager. He used to get quite angry that he wanted players in, but when he started his pre-season, so he could work on them and get them involved in the system and drill them like he does. but never had them. So that's going back sort of 4 or 5 years. Go back to last summer. If everyone remembers the money that was spent, which was Jamal Lewis, and please somebody come on and correct me if I'm wrong, but my memory, I think it was the Middlesbrough debacle. I think they got beat 5-1, and there was like a panic pre-West Ham because they had to get a striker in because Dwight Gale was injured. They were looking at goalkeepers because Martin Dubravka wasn't there. And they ended up getting Jamal Lewis through the door quite quickly. I'm sure they confirmed Ryan Fraser about that time as well, and got Callum Wilson through. Spent their big money at the end of the pre-season. Didn't have much action at the end of the actual window, but at the end of pre-season, they did do that bit of panicking just before West Ham. So they're haven't really got form. So anybody getting too panicky at this stage, they haven't got form for signing players this far out, and it wouldn't surprise me if we're in a similar situation this summer, that it takes some kind of daft thing to kick them into action. But that doesn't mean nothing's happening. Stuff is happening. Stuff will happen. So I see a lot of people out there as well talking about saying, has Ashley put everything on hold to stop? No, the club is still running as it was. To my knowledge, and I'm not going to say I'm the font of all knowledge at Newcastle United, there could have been conversations where that this might have a massive impact, but I'm led to believe that things are just carrying on as they were. There wasn't going to be a lot of money to spend this summer because of the financial restrictions that COVID, fans behind the commercial revenues have dropped massively. There was never going to be a wash of money this summer to spend. So they're having to box clever. Some deals will get done. Some that they wanted to get done might prove too pricey. Some will go elsewhere. I'm talking of Aja with the first one, and the second one was Saliba was the other one. They did want him. It looks like he wants to go back to France. That's fine. But that's the transfer window. That's the market we find ourselves in. And Newcastle United are in the market for players. But I'll be very surprised if we see the kind of flurry that we did last summer with the 15 million and the 20 million. But I do think they might spend a little bit.
Lee Taylor's positive because there's no sign of Willock in the pre-season friendly squad tonight when Arsenal play Hibernian. So we will.
We might just have a knock.
We'll wait and see. It'll be interesting. Thoughts on the new home top and keeper shirt for the upcoming season? We did a little bit on this last night. Holly was sporting her home top, the number 4 top as it's affectionately now known. What's your thoughts on that?
I've seen some people put pictures online of them wearing it, and I like it. I like the detail on it. I like the fact that it's bespoke. Anybody who watches this show regular will know that one of my big criticisms of the Puma kits largely, and there was 2 or 3 away ones with slight differences and things like that, but I didn't like the fact they were always just felt like they were out the catalogue. You get half the Newcastle kits, you've probably seen a load of Sunday League teams running around in. It was one of those. It was like straight out the Puma catalogue. And I like this. I like the fact that they've taken on an up-and-coming brand who won't always get it right. But I like this. I think it's got a nod to heritage. It's a nice-looking kit. I haven't seen it in person. I will go and have a look. Probably get one for my son, potentially. And we'll see.
65 quid. It's expensive.
It is expensive. But look, that's football. That's football. Anybody knows who was looking for England shirts in the summer knows you pay an absolute premium for these shirts. It's wrong. Don't get us wrong. But I think, if you want a football shirt, you have to pay these days. Unfortunately, it's not long gone are the days where things are affordable. The goalkeeper kit's a goalkeeper kit at the end of the day. I don't think anybody's really bothered. You don't get many people buying them anyway.
It's a grower, that though, isn't it? It's I don't think it's horrendous. I've seen a lot worse. I just think, as you say, it's a goalkeeper top. They're always garish, to say the least. But I think that's a grower. I think you see a few people wearing that, maybe at raves and that.
Glow sticks. That's what you're thinking.
If anyone's bought it, don't wear it on the bus on Friday though, because I'll still want to get some sleep at 5 o'clock in the morning. Dear God. I can just see Spenny Mag turning up in one of them with one of these wigs on. But we'll see what happens. See if anyone's got one of them on. Chris is interested in our football prowess and career. He says, "What positions did you play in as kids?" Liam?
I used to play as a defender. I used to quite like being a defender, centre half. or right back. I've got to be honest, I didn't play at any kind of level at all. But I used to like the game in front of us, so I could see what was going on and reading and things like that. That was more my thing, which is funny because, as you know, people on here, I've got a son who just started playing football this year, and he's absolutely determined to be a striker, and he's trying to get us to sort of teach him little bits and bobs. And I'm more used to the ball being in front of us, whereas he's having to make runs and things like that. And I kind of quite get the teaching right for him. But Steve, what were you?
I was a centre half, and my number was number 4, which is why I might buy this new Newcastle top. Actually, it's lucky number 4, mine, and I had a good Sunday League career, it has to be said, but I was player manager. Most of the lads will tell you. Well, my nickname was Vinny. I think that's all that anybody really needs to know. I couldn't kick a football, but I could kick a man. Put it that way. So many happy memories. Never relegated as a manager in a 20-year Sunday football career. I flirted briefly with a Saturday management job at Heaven, but I decided not to do that and go back to watching Newcastle. I just couldn't miss the home games, and it was no good. Plus, the chairman was always turning up late with the strips, and we were at loggerheads. But had some great days. Had some great players.
You're painting yourself as like the Jose Mourinho of the Newcastle and Gateshead Sunday League scene.
Well, believe it or not, that's that, with the trophies that I've got upstairs, son, and the dust collectors I've got, certainly was. We actually won the league 3 times in the Central Sunday Afternoon League that they allowed us to keep the shield. So I've still got that. But yeah, we had some great days. We had some great days, some great laughs. And I think anybody who plays Sunday League, I know it's a bit of a dying art these days, but they'll tell you they were the best days of your life because you had Sunday sessions where you'd play Sunday afternoon and then get yourself out and you'd be out until God knows what time. Premier League started and people were, you go out and watch the match. There'd be 2 games on. Great days, great memories. Involved a lot of drink, a lot of karaoke, and a lot of being in the bad books on a Monday morning. But happy days, happy memories. But yeah, we were both defenders, Chris. Good question. John asks, could the cat case be dropped if there was an agreement in arbitration? This might avoid embarrassment for the Premier League, so they might be keen to settle.
Yeah, John, it's a good question, but it's all hypotheticals. It's impossible to know. If your question is, could it happen? Of course it could. It's impossible really to know which way this is going to play out, and I think critics out there who like to sort of try and criticize me or maybe somebody like Steve or somebody else like that. I've had a few this week where they try and pin you to things and push you into corners and make you make predictions and try and throw it back in your face. But I've been pretty consistent on here. I can't sit here and second guess the way that these legal things are going to go. I can't sit here and tell you whether the takeover will happen. A lot of people ask, are you confident? And I know that gives them a little bit of peace, but my confidence is irrelevant and whether it'll happen or whether it won't. I'm just always hopeful. And with timeframes, look, there was a point last summer where timeframes did matter and looked very, very close. And a lot of people got their fingers burnt with that. So for me, I would never predict a time. I wouldn't predict the way I think any of these legal cases are going to go. And I certainly won't be predicting whether I think the takeover will or won't go through because I want it to, but I can't say if it will. Because I think probably history, the last 15 to 16 months have probably taught that we're going to have to be a little bit cautious with this.
Yeah, apologies to Mark Henderson in the chat who is saying that he knew us from somewhere, getting kicked off me in the Sunday leagues. Yeah, I haven't changed much, mate. I'm still got no hair, and except I'm a bit slower these days to compare to the way I was, and I wasn't exactly Steve Cram back in those days either. Tom Dixon says, great to see some youth players sign some contracts at the club, Liam. I mean, yeah, since we last saw you, there was a splurge of young talent, including Duncan Ferguson's son, arrive at the club. So certainly boosting the under-23 squad anyway. Yeah,
they needed it, Steve. They really did. Anybody who has seen the 23s in the last year or two will know that it's really struggling. There is a bit of a talent drain there. There's a big gap. And it's hard because often if you do fall on hard times with your 25-man squad, you'll see a lot of clubs sort of fall back on their younger players. Everton have a lot of players. Aston Villa have a lot of players. It's not always the top sides at the top of the division who fall back on that because they tend to have good players anyway. But clubs in and around the middle towards the bottom do rely on having to sort of pluck the odd player out and bring them on the bench and get them involved. Newcastle United haven't had a lot of that, and there isn't a lot there to call upon. There's the obvious, and we've seen the obvious in and around the fringes of the first team over the last couple of seasons. But again, going beyond that, there isn't a massive amount, and it's a shame. I'm not the biggest fan of 23 football. I think there's a lot of lads in there who are just making up the numbers, and drop out of football altogether, or drop into non-league stuff very, very quickly. And I think there needs to be a rethink of the system. I don't think necessarily it's the best way, and on the best way for us to be bringing through young players, particularly Newcastle.
Okay, Toby says, is there any truth to the Boubacar Kamara links from Marseille?
It's not one I'd heard, but like I say, I haven't exactly had my ear to the ground over the last couple of weeks, but I did see that rumour. But I think we'll just have to wait and see how that one develops.
Gary says, if the Premier League only have delayed tactics, how and why is it taking so long? They shouldn't be able to get away with it.
And Gary, I don't think they will get away with it forever. That's the hope that I have, is that they won't be allowed to constantly delay, constantly stall. I do have faith in the systems that there will be a decision on this. I think the only thing that I don't have faith in is I want to see how that decision is made, and I want to see how the panel in particular come to a decision. And I think that's one that everybody wants to see, because we've got to remember there's been a big push in the last 7 days from the buyers as to they're waiting there with the cash, they're waiting there to complete this deal. And they also want to know how this decision is made and how it comes about. They aren't part of this process. That's one thing that's got to be made very, very clear. This is a process between Newcastle United, Mike Ashley, and his legal teams and the Premier League. They're the only people involved in this confidential process. It needs to be broader. Even the people who want to put their money down on the table don't know the ins and outs of it, and they want to know as well. And I can fully sympathise with that. I would want to know if it was my money on the table too.
Yeah, me too. Next question is from Tom, just saying, do I reckon me and Dad will come on the Fab Four one week? Never say never. We have to admit we were over the moon to get that message from me and Dad, and using our channel to do it was great. Big support, obviously, there for Protest NUFC. Give them a follow on Twitter. I'm sure he will at some point. Takeover goes through or not. I'm sure he will come on. I wouldn't be surprised if Amanda came on as well, because they're both great people. I've told you time and time again, those of you who watch this show, I've got a lot of time for them, and having met them, on that day in 2017, I'm still convinced they are the right people to take our club forward, and let's hope they get the opportunity. I'm going to give a shout out.
Can I ask you something, Steve? Carry on, because I think it's quite an important point, because I have a lot of people throw it my way as well on Twitter. And one thing that people said this week was, why the hell did Murdad not just tweet it out from his Twitter account? Is it a fake Twitter account? They also said, why did he choose NUFC Matters? And I don't know if you want to talk about that, but it is, to my knowledge, as you know, it is his Twitter account, isn't it?
Of course it is. I don't know. I don't understand why anybody would think it isn't. But of course, as we've seen, once again, the trolls are out, day after day after day. They're getting banned from various accounts and then setting new ones up. They're easy to spot. They've all been set up in 2021 in either, anything from March to July. And these people are the only ones who are pushing their own agenda. And as you'll have seen, Liam, while you've been recovering, I've just decided to go out now and do videos on Twitter because, I haven't got the time to sit and respond to all of these people. I've been attacked by far left idiots today, and I've just come out and said what I've had to say. But getting back to me, Dad, look, it's a genuine account, and these people tend not to do social media. You're never going to see Amanda Staveley on Twitter, but me, Dad, is a different kettle of fish. He's keen to do it. He's on there. Jamie Rubin is on there, and the stuff that they put out, I think, has been very considered, very emotional at times, and shows that they've clearly got an interest in a club that they want to buy. And I think the fact that they've chosen, set times to put something out on their Twitter account is great. I think what clouds the issue sometimes is that, you've got accounts like Money Mike Ashley, which is probably one of the funniest Newcastle parody accounts out there. A lot of people think he's got connections to the club, whoever runs it, possibly to have, who knows? I just think that probably makes people think twice. People have been conned before. I'll give you a prime example, Gaza. Where, never a year goes by when there isn't one or two accounts, come up, usually around internationals or big games, and it's a Gaza account. Now, we all know Gaza has used Twitter in the past, but every now and then we get a snide one that comes up. I keep in touch with Paul, I keep in touch with his family, and ultimately, if I see one of those, I'll report them straight away. And we had one a couple of weeks ago at the start of the Euros. Somebody set one up. So I understand people's misgivings. I understand why people would think that. But why did he choose NUFC Matters? Because we have a relationship which is gone on since 2017. I have done a bit of business with me dad. So, he's helped me with a particular project, and, we are mates in that respect. So, from my perspective, that is why he chose NUFC Matters. And I think that's great for us. And, we just wanted to thank him. But it wasn't for an NUFC Matters project. It was for Protest NUFC. He reached out to me and said, I'd like to support this. I didn't chase him for it. I didn't ask him for it. He said, we would like to support the fans going down to London. Would you mind putting this video out? And I said, yeah. And I said, do you have any objections to me putting it out on NUFC Matters? And he went, no, not at all. And then, we did that and then put it over to the protest group, who were delighted. So, just want to thank him again. It was fantastic for him to do that. And why not? Why not? He's, as we've already seen, they've been in touch with over the course of the last, over the last 15 months, they have been in touch with Alex Hurst, who was chair of the trust and who is now just a committee member of the trust. But they have spoken to fans. Do you know what I mean? So, it's a good thing. That's more communication from them. And I think this has been already made a point of on social media, more communication from them than we've had from Mike Ashley over 14 years. And a lot of people were making things of it, saying it's desperation, it's because it's going to collapse. I don't think that at all. I just think that, the shackles are off now. The tanks are on the lawn, and they're now approaching the Premier League's head office. From both sides. Mike Ashley's got he's got a pincer movement going on from this side and that side, and I just think them coming out's a bit of a Churchillian way of saying let's get this over the line. It almost felt like a we'll fight them on the beaches kind of moment from Amanda when she was speaking. But I think that the one thing it did do was prove beyond all reasonable doubt that you, me, Steve Hasty, Neil Mitchell and Keith Patterson have been telling the truth for the last 15 months and we haven't been leading anybody up the garden path. So, I felt a big relief when Amanda spoke because I thought, well, at least that's one less thing people can cyberbully us for,
It's been constant, hasn't it, Stephen? I don't want this to turn into some kind of therapy session or anything like that for the viewers out there, but it does get you down a bit. It does drain you, and no matter what you put out there, you've got the constant drain of people saying you're leading people up the garden path, you're lying about this, you don't know anybody, you know as much as me, all this kind of thing, and in particular as well, that the mob who come on and say there's no buyers, they went away, they pulled out last summer. It just it was really nice to see her come out and really just put all that to bed, just put that to sleep, and allow people to start actually using their energy and worrying about things that actually matter, and stop the odd denial that some people have put themselves in, which made them feel a bit better. It was totally illogical. I did put a post out on the first day of the year, bit of a New Year's resolution, and just said, and I mean it, is just be careful who you believe in this process. And I think there's been a little bit of justification for some of the things that we've reported and said in those messages that have gone on over the last 10 days.
Yeah, exactly, mate. Exactly. Okay, big shout out as always to our sponsors, Spider VPN, who've been with us for the last few months. Google Spider VPN, and they come up at the top of the Google search list for all your internet protection. Protect your passwords, protect everything on your computer. Simply Google Spider VPN, and their contact details will be there, and they are the boys to trust. Get in touch also with skipsandbins.com, another one of our main sponsors. Telephone 0800 25 45 25 3. Email inquiries at skipsandbins.com. Website www.skipsandbins.com. Easy, contract free, and pay as you go waste collection. And just want to show you this as well. We are getting on the bus to London, and so is Sir Bobby. And he's buzzing about it. He's got his own bus, and he's got his own transparency signs there. So good on him. Skips and Bins supporting the protest on Friday. Big shout out to Sir Bobby there, who's got there a little bit early. He should have waited and got on our bus. But thanks for that, Scott, for sending that over, and thanks for your words of support as well. I will pass them on to Holly and the rest of the people behind it. Also, a big shout out to qtechshop.co.uk, the makers of pool tables and snooker tables in Wallsend in Newcastle, and John at Jab Signature, who makes all of our flyers. First time visitor to the channel and you want to subscribe, hit the Newcastle Legends logo in the bottom right hand corner. Hit the thumbs up to like the video. It does us a big favour, and it is free to do that, as well as being free to subscribe. And click share to share it to your social media. Drop into the comment box, and you can speak to like-minded Newcastle fans or pose us a question, and we'll try and get it read out on air. We're also on all podcast providers such as iTunes and Spotify, so you can listen to the podcasts back when you're out and about. We do also have a website, NUFCmatters.com, where we sell a vast array of T-shirts, courtesy of qtechshop.co.uk, and the transparency T-shirts, I believe, will be up there as well. You'll be able to buy them. Tomorrow night, slight change of plan. We usually do the retro show on a Wednesday night, but we are going to do Stu Penman's Dream Team Live. Now, we've never done a Dream Team Live. We've done a lot of pre-records. You can find them in the playlist, NUFC Matters Dream Team. But Stu's going to be on live picking his tomorrow because Steve Wilkinson's still on holiday. So we are going to have a live show, which means you can all join in. Tell us what you think of Stu's team. Puts a little bit of extra pressure on him. And don't forget, please follow Protest NUFC, Friday the 16th of July, 1 p.m. If you live in London, it would be great for you to spare some time and come along at 1 o'clock to meet the fans who are travelling down to Parliament Square, and to meet the Labour MP Chi Onwurah, who will be in attendance as well. Don't forget as well, tickets still haven't been announced for Doncaster that I've seen, but Shambles Travel are taking bookings now for Friday the 23rd of July for that particular game. So once you get your tickets, you can get yourself on that bus. Book now, 0779 141 779. That's 0779 141 779, and contact Amanda. Big shout out to Amanda. She always runs a great bus. And I have done this. I know some of you do like me true crime stuff. This will be up at the weekend. Professor Dick Hobbs has got a new book out called The Business, Talking with Thieves, Gangsters and Dealers. Dick Hobbs, a renowned professor, used to work at Durham University, good friend of mine, and enjoyed chatting to him for an hour about his new book. And let's get back to the questions. Terry says, massive shout out to all that are involved for Friday's Parliament protest, and also again, massive shout out for Keith Patterson. What an effort from him. Joe, who is our Toon tipster, he says, Liam, are the Gazette covering this on Friday?
Yeah, we'll be covering in some form. I'm not 100% yet whether I'll be able to go down, but I have penciled myself in to potentially go down. I know there's a place on the bus in particular for us, but obviously with we're still in isolation, some of my family as well, so I'm just gonna have to wait and see how the week pans out. But we'll definitely be covering it because I'm back at work this week. But whether I'll actually be on the bus and going down, I'll have to wait and see. I'll probably have to make a last minute decision on that.
Chris Linney says, does Liam have any information about season ticket renewals? Bizarre, even by Ashley standard, season starts in 4 weeks. I got an email today, got to be honest, from the club asking me to just double check the direct debit, etc. But I got an email today, so it might be well worth checking. I don't know whether you've heard anything from there.
No, I haven't, unfortunately. I can definitely check that up for people if people haven't got that. If there's enough people need us to go and ask that question, I can definitely try and help people out. But it's a strange summer, because we haven't really known until probably the other day, definitely, that full stadiums were going to be a thing potentially in a month's time. So yeah, it's still been a bit of sort of fly by the seat of your pants thing with the clubs and the Premier League. But I think I would expect most normal run clubs would have already contacted their season ticket holders and sorted things out. But this is Newcastle United, and things sometimes do take a little bit longer at this football club.
Yeah, they do. Holly says Hayden's the best midfielder at Newcastle in an already shaky midfield. It would be a horrendous decision to let him go. Tom says, who do you think will be shown the exit door? Do you think the likes of Shelby will leave the club?
I've seen a lot of talk of Shelby recently and the Longstaffs and others, because they are players that haven't been pictured on the training pictures from Tyneside or from North Yorkshire at the training camp they're at the moment. But I don't know. I don't know if that's. I don't know if there's anything in that. I've asked the question. We'll wait and see what comes back as to why those players are absent at the moment. If they're even absent, they may just be carrying little knocks. Might have issues. You just don't know with these situations. Do I believe Shelby will be sold this summer? I can't say with any degree of certainty who will go and who won't go, but I'd be surprised if John Joe Shelby was one of those players. And on Isaac Hayden as well, that Holly made the point that, look, I like Isaac Hayden. I think he's a limited Premier League midfielder, but I do like him. I like his attitude. I like his ability to put his foot in, and I think he can do more than that when asked to do more than that. I think with better players alongside him, I think he would look a much, much better player. And he certainly isn't a player that I'll be looking to get rid of out the door this summer or even beyond as well. And it has to be remembered with Isaac Hayden, there's a lot of this talk out there at the moment, but the lad, I think it was October last year, when he signed a new 6-year contract at Newcastle United, and I think he is minded to stay. I think he wants to stay at the football club, and that can often be a big decider in these kind of moves.
Yeah, any news on Andy Carroll? Lots of people wondering what the situation is with regards to him, because, you know, he hasn't been mentioned, hasn't been for a new contract. Is he gone? Is that it?
I don't know. It's a really, really weird one, but he's not at Newcastle United at the moment, and he wasn't part of any lists. But I'll make sure that for next week I'll chase that one up a little bit and hopefully we can get some kind of clarity on that. I think we will get some clarity in the next few days, but I'll try my best to see if we can get some clarity on it.
Mark Henderson says if you get in the bus, you're not sitting next to him.
That's fine. I don't know if it's the best idea for us to get the bus, to be fair, Mark.
Well, you're going to walk. You're going to do the Jarrow March.
I better get moving then, eh? No, I think I'll have to wait and see. I'll have to wait and see with that. But yeah, no, I'm really supportive of the people taking their time and their efforts to go and fight for something that matters to so many. And I'd be really interested to hear the stories of people as to why they've chosen to take this stand, why they believe it's an important thing for Newcastle United and for themselves. And I'm really intrigued. In another week, if it was a couple of weeks' time, I'd probably be fine to do it, but we'll have to wait and see. And fingers crossed I can be there and support you guys going down. But it will definitely be covering it from a paper perspective, because for me it is a really big deal, And I know there's a lot of time and effort gone into the organisation of this. From a perspective of, I know, Steve, you know a lot of the people who've been involved. I know some of them as well, and it means a lot to them. And I think it's only right that there's a local newspaper that we really do give this our backing and support it all the way.
Yeah. Mark says, any idea why the Longstaff brothers are not with the team training at York?
No, I've asked the question. I haven't seen them either, and they weren't in any of the training pictures from Tyneside as well, from the returns last week. So no, I've asked the question. I'll wait and see what comes back.
Is Oliver Dowden on holiday? Says Daniel Renforth.
Not. I mean, I don't think so. I think Parliament breaks up next week or the week after.
I still don't understand why they need it. Why they would even have a holiday when we're still trying to get through this bloody pandemic.
Yeah, it's like they need their little summer holidays, don't they? Like being back at school or something. No, I think there'll be a recess, and I can't remember the exact date, but it's coming up. So I'd be very surprised if he took a flyer and got the early flights, got the cheaper flights because he doesn't go when the rest of them go.
Billy says, if the takeover went through and our ambitions were limitless, which player from Euro 2020 caught your eye and you'd want us to sign? Great question.
That's a really, really good question. So I'd probably pick a few, to be honest. Money, no object. So I really, really like the boy who plays for Denmark, who plays a left back. I think it's called Myla. I thought he was fantastic. I really did enjoy Denmark, to be honest, because I like Pierre-Emile Højbjerg as a Tottenham, a proven Premier League performer. I think somebody like Calvin Phillips coming into a Newcastle United midfield would be a real Phillip in there. I like Barella. I love Chiesa. There's lots and lots and lots of players that I would look at to bring in. I was going to say Spinazzola, but injuries. I think that's been the problem throughout his career. That's why he's 28 and finally just breaking on the scene. Is that he's had so many injuries. So he's probably not a player you would target. But yeah, if money's no object, then I said it last summer. I'm looking at Harry Kane. I'm looking at Grealish. But realistically, I've been impressed by a lot of players. Like I say, there's 3 or 4 in that Denmark side who really, really impressed us. Lots and lots and lots of good players. But yeah, if you're going to push us to get one, I would say in the type of position that Newcastle United need, I would say somebody like a Calvin Phillips maybe. And like I say, I like that Myla. He was a really good attacking fullback.
Yeah, Chris, you just need to turn up at Parliament Square at 1 o'clock, mate. That would be great if you can get down there and obviously join the peaceful protest. But any more information you need, just follow at Protest NUFC on Twitter. Paul says, could NUFC have 2 season ticket prices in mind? One for Ashley and one for the consortium, as they are in no rush to publish season ticket news. I mean, it's possible that they might be thinking about something like that, but I'm not sure. Lots of people asking the question. I mean, this is damning really of the communication from the club. But I did get an email myself today, and it was only today, guys. So maybe check your spam or double check on the payments side of things. You might get one within the next 48 hours. Jason Richardson says, good to see you back, Liam. Was Steve Bruce's comments regarding the training camp being the best place for integrating new players, was this a bit of a dig at the hierarchy?
Yeah, I've seen somebody reporting somewhere that they thought it was a hint that he was going to bring players in. I watched the interview and looked at it and didn't really take it as such. I didn't even take it because when I first read the quotes, I thought, he's having a dig here. But I didn't, again, his demeanour when he said it, I didn't think he was having a dig in particular. I think he was actually just, coming forward with an example as to why these kind of things are good, is he can integrate players in a different, everybody's outside their comfort zone, so you bring in new players into that rather than, training ground cliquey, everyone sits in the same place they did last year. It's everybody for themselves in a summer camp, and it can be good. We're breaking the ice with new players. So my opinion, I didn't take it as a dig. It may have been meant as one, and I certainly didn't take it as a hint. But I'd love to be proved wrong.
Yeah. Is Rafa after ASM, says Blue Moon Boy, and quite a few other people who I scrolled through there asking exactly the same question. We saw rumours of him being interested in £50 million being mooted.
Well, there was interest from Everton, and Everton have been monitoring the ASM situation. So it depends on what kind of model Benitez has walked into there. But my caveat with that would be if Benitez has got an absolute say-so on transfers, I don't think ASM fits the type of player, the profile that he would want to bring to the football club. Ticks some boxes, but in terms of discipline, maybe not. And I don't think he was a player that Benitez would have signed had he stayed at Newcastle that summer. And I think that was some of the friction was the Joe Linton kind of time, Alan St. Maximin kind of time when those deals were brokered in the spring before Rafa even left. Those were Steve Nixon type picks. And it would surprise me if Benitez would then change tact to then want to sign a player like Alan St. Maximin. But Alan St. Maximin is a better player now than he was then. Much better player now. Still got the same discipline problems, still got the same inconsistencies. But look, if you're looking to add a little bit of spark, I think a lot of teams might look at Alan St-Maximin. And really, for the kind of talent that he has and can produce, he isn't really that expensive if those kind of figures are what have been talked about value Alan St-Maximin. And I'm not about to start guessing what Alan St-Maximin's worth. I don't know that figure. And my understanding has always been since the start of summer, the Newcastle United aren't minded to sell any of their players that they think are going to be part of the team next season. And Alan St-Maximin is right at the top of that. But as you know, these things can change throughout the summer. I'm not about to tick every box, but they can. Things can change. But if you're asking me honestly, would it surprise us if Rafa Benitez signed Alan St-Maximin? And the answer would be yes. It would surprise us.
Gary Hannant just asking, do you think we'll see some new tactics at Newcastle after Graham Jones's experiences with England? I certainly think, you could see the Jones effect. I mean, we saw some videos being released during the tournament of Graham Jones spending extra time with Grealish and Harry Kane and Foden, to name three players. You know, he's certainly a very, very talented man who just seems to have come from nowhere, changed Newcastle's season and now changed England's fortunes. And, you know, that's no discredit to Gareth Southgate, by the way. He had the nous to bring him in when, you know, he lost somebody close to the tournament. But it's quite clear that Graham Jones is a very special talent in his chosen profession. Yeah,
I think Holland and Southgate were the ones who really made the tactics for England. And I think Jones more just fitted into their system and their style. Did a lot of work with the players. We've seen the videos themselves, was well liked, well received. And that's been very similar to the way that he's been received by players on the training ground at Benton as well. They like what he does. He's fresh. He keeps things interesting. And at Newcastle United, he has been more heavily involved in the sort of ideas side of things and tactics. And it's a good question, Gary. Would I think he'll take some of what England did and bring it to Newcastle? I don't think necessarily, but I also think he wouldn't be doing his job right if he wasn't learning as a coach from that experience as well. It's not always about how much you give. He will also have been taking things from that and learning himself and probably be a better coach for it. So it wouldn't surprise us if there's little things that he's learned this summer from being part of that process that he does bring into his wider coaching role.
Yeah, lots of stuff coming out of Celtic in the last couple of hours on Twitter. I'm just checking that up, and Adja's not happy at all about the situation. There seems to be a breakdown in communication between the club and him, and he just wants to go. The club seem to want a large price, and that's what's putting a lot of people off. So I think that one's going to drag on and on through the summer. You tend to get cases like that. Donald says Spinazzola and Chiesa when suggesting who he would sign from the Euros. Saka's a secret NUFC fan, says Kirk. I'm not too sure about that. The Mags are saying, is the Fab Four live this Friday? Of course not, mate, because we were on our way down to London, so it's a pre-record, I'm afraid. Alan White says, what do you think will happen to Elliot Anderson and Freddie Woodman this summer, Liam?
I think Freddie Woodman, again, don't hold us to this, but I think he'll probably go out on loan. And I would be surprised if Elliot Anderson wasn't being pushed towards a loan this summer as well. For me, I don't think it would be a great decision to keep him around. Like I said, I've mentioned earlier in the show, I'm not the biggest fan of 23s football. I find lads who've got talent, once they've done a year at that level, which Anderson has, you're not gaining much from staying at that level, because it isn't real football, and it isn't. You can't step from the 23 straight into Premier League football. You need to do something else. You need to go out, take your knocks, make your mistakes. And I think Elliot Anderson would be best. His future would be best served by going and getting that kind of loan deal elsewhere. It's a hard one. How do you pitch an Elliot Anderson? Like, how high does he go? How low does he go in terms of the Football League pyramid? I think he'll probably go reasonably high, but there is risk with that as well, because he is still a young lad and still needs to make those mistakes and take those knocks. So they're going to have to play this one quite clever this summer. But I would expect probably both would leave on loan. And Freddie Woodman's an interesting one, because how many more loans does Freddie Woodman have before he's ready? I would argue he isn't ready this summer to challenge Martin Dubravka, for the reason that Martin Dubravka is a proven Premier League performer. We still don't know if Freddie Woodman is a proven Premier League performer. And that's kind of what he needed. It's such a shame Swansea, for Newcastle this is, that Swansea didn't get promoted, because he would have ended up probably going straight back to Swansea, and played a season as a Premier League loanee and make or break himself next season as a Premier League player. And that would have been the ideal scenario, to then walk back at Newcastle the summer after, either, ready to play in the Premier League, or having done okay and still couldn't get rid of Dubravka. Newcastle's got a £20 million goalkeeper ready to sell, and he can go and play somewhere else, because I'm sure there'd be takers if he did well. But yeah, a really good goalkeeper and a really good attacking midfielder. They both need game time. Freddie Woodman is a really interesting one to pitch, and Elliot Anderson's, they've just got to get that level right. Because I think both of them have got bright futures.
Yeah, if the takeover is actually approved, how long after the approval would it take for them to come in? Weeks, months, says Jacob Hall. I mean, you get the impression they'd be ready to go. Just be the dotting the I's and crossing the T's, really.
Well, everything that we hear is that things are ready to go. It's absolutely just a case of clear that pathway, and then things can move very, very fast. How fast? I wouldn't know. Very fast in this process. What is very fast? We've been sitting waiting for 15 months. So I would hope it would be weeks, but it wouldn't surprise us if it was longer. But it sounds like everything's ready to go. Everything's done. The problems that are there will probably be ironed out either way with this arbitration and potentially the other legal case.
Yeah, Billy said, can I be controversial? I would sell Jamal Lascelles. I think a lot of people probably would be in the same boat as you. What do you think?
I don't think that's controversial. I don't think it's controversial. It is to me, because anybody who, again, regularly watches the show will know that I really do value Jamal Lascelles. I think Newcastle United need to transform their backline. A lot of people are sitting saying, well, we've got enough defenders, we've got good defenders. One thing that Newcastle United, particularly when they play this three, they've got good defenders, but they've got absolutely no pace in that back three. They need an injection of pace, because if you go through every one, Fernandez is a good defender. Kieran Clark's a decent defender. Paul Dummett's a decent defender. Emil Kraft, maybe not. But you go through these players, Fabian Shaw, good footballer. Is he always the best defender? Not so sure. None of these players have got pace. Jamal Lascelles isn't slow, but he's certainly not quick either. You go through this backline, and soon you can see there's a big problem there. Florian Lejeune, the one I forgot, if he stays, which I don't think he will, if he stays, he's not quick, he's slow. And Newcastle United need a transformation. They need to at least get one player in who can play in that back three, who's got good recovery, good pace. We've just seen it in the Euros. A player who's performed in the Premier League without ever really, who's always looked good, decent, solid, really good right back, Kyle Walker. Look at his recoveries for England. His recoveries, nobody got past that bloke because of his pace. Newcastle United don't have a defender like that who can recover at that speed, and they miss that. And I can see why they're targeting defenders. I can see it, because I would be too. Even though a lot of people will look at it and say, well, we need midfielders, or we need this, we need that. I think the way they play, and if they want to play this three, they need at least one who's got recovery skills. I don't say it doesn't have to be Kyle Walker, but it certainly has to be better than Florian Lejeune.
Last question to Tom Dixon. He says, when the takeover is complete, would you take Roberto Mancini as Newcastle manager?
Well, I would, yes, of course I would. I don't see why anybody wouldn't. And any more interesting question that you could ask people out there is, would you take Gareth Southgate instead of Steve Bruce? That would be that's an interesting one to pitch. Some people say yes, a lot of people say no.
He never picks Newcastle players, would not put a team out.
He certainly wouldn't, yeah. No, but I like Mancini. I think there's some really interesting stories that get regurgitated in this last week or so about his oddities and things like that. That he used to ban the colour purple. He didn't like anybody eating ketchup with their dinner and all this kind of thing. I think he's a very superstitious guy. Whenever they went on away trips, he would always make sure that they drove on the same road at the same time and all that kind of thing. Very pedantic. I wonder if he's still the same, but interesting. I don't think all the players liked him at Man City, but he got results, won trophies at Manchester City, and probably didn't get the credit that he deserved for being a manager at Manchester City, because he did a good job.
Yeah, Southgate's gone down like a lead balloon, so it's just as well we're coming in that.
That's why I pitched it. Yeah, because I thought, you know what, that's more of an interesting question. Who would take Gareth Southgate?
Not me. It's great to have you back, mate. Give us a quick plug for where people can find your work.
I forgot where I work now. It's been that long. No, Shields Gazette. Work on a subscription system. You can subscribe to the Gazette. Maybe it's a little bit of an NUFC Matters exclusive. I will be starting a new job quite soon, so it won't always be the Shields Gazette, but I'll be able to say a little bit more about that next week, probably. But yeah, you can find me if you like what I do. Just check us out at Liam J Kennedy 23, which is down on the bottom of the screen here, and you'll find all the details you need for subscriptions and things like that there. So any support is really welcome.
I'm not sure we'll be able to fit window cleaner along the bottom there, like, but we'll give it a go. Ashley, I'm not even going to entertain that. Not at all. Neil Warnock, are you having a laugh, mate? Nice
Steve,
to have you.
You've got to remember what the level is. It's Steve Bruce is the level. What we're talking about here.
That's from a Leeds fan. He's trying to get a bite in the chat before we clock off. But big shout out to Ash, and he helps massively put the guests together for the Sean Atwood podcast, and always well worth a watch, Sean Atwood's podcast. So get on there, and looking forward to seeing you, Ash. Hopefully at Elland Road and St James's Park with fans back in grounds. It'd be nice to catch up with you. I'm going to be going on the road a lot with Newcastle again this year, and looking forward to it. So, Liam, as I said, great to have you on. Hopefully, we'll see you on Friday, but obviously, health's got to come first. And great to see you, and we'll have you back on next Tuesday. Take care, mate.
Cheers.
Critics attack. It feels like I've been talking to myself again. But it's the only way you're ever gonna learn your life.